Hello everyone and welcome to another Redfall video. My name's Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, but if you're a returning subscriber, thanks so much for coming and checking this out. For the subscribers out there, I really want to know what you think about this update. Is this enough? What's going to get it over that hill? We've seen games have redemption arcs. Ultimately, I'm asking you, is it possible that this game, as a brand new IP, gets that same kind of redemption arc? We're going to explore a little bit of discussion around Redfall in this video, but I want to cover the highlights, the big changes that are coming, get you guys caught up to speed because update 2 for Redfall is here. Now, over on X, you'll see tons of people, at least at this point, asking where's the 60 frames per second update? Here's their answer. It's here. It's available. So the big number here, the big release, which for me I think is really important because that means I will actually go and install this on my Series X. I've been primarily playing it on PC. Now I'm going to do this because I don't know why, but I really like 60 frames per second, especially in a shooter. 30 frames per second. For some reason, I'm weird, right? Like it is almost a deal breaker. So I'm going to play where the best frames per second can be found. And that ends up being PC and in this case, also cloud streaming. But big update there. Still takedowns are being added. I think that's important, namely because just the theme and how the game is set up. They've also increased open world enemy population with new encounters. They've added in new controller settings, obviously big gameplay and combat changes. And I think that's where I want to now jump into the actual patch notes. It gets you guys caught up to speed and we'll break it down for you in this video as well. So let's just jump into performance and stability. Enabled performance mode on the Xbox Series X and S. Obviously, there is this online narrative about the weakness of the Series S. As a software engineer, I don't buy into that narrative. I do buy into the increased development time that it takes to support two different SKUs, but we can explore that in future discussion videos if you guys are so inclined. Now, also, they've improved the PC performance and stability across a wide range of hardware configurations. Bravo. They've addressed several edge case memory crashes. They've addressed graphical corruption issues with changing resolution and AMD GPUs. They fixed an issue with resetting the game settings to their default values when in window display on a second monitor. The anti-aliasing setting is now hidden in the video settings while AMD FSR 2.1 upscaling is enabled. The various performance improvements made to heroes' abilities, weapons, and general game systems. They have various fixes and support for hero abilities triggering properly, despite environmental factors like ladders, death mist, electrocution, and more. They've improved the player navigation and collision across both Redfall, commons, and burial points. That's I don't know, for whatever reason, I do appreciate when things kind of go wrong in game, where as long as my save and my progress aren't getting like deleted, I can end up appreciating that. If you guys have been following me for any period of time, I think ultimately you can say I'm either overly optimistic or I'm just generally somebody who finds the fun in video games. I'm not worried about all the other little things, but I can respect people who disagree with me, and I can respect people who really look at video games with a critical eye because it's your money and it's your time. And we're all going to come at this in a different way. I generally always just try to find the fun no matter what I'm doing, namely because I got limited time to dive into every video game. So I usually just try to figure out how I'm having the most fun in a game that I'm playing. Now, for the user interface, moving on. Weapons and silencers or silence muzzles attachments now reflect their silent state in the tooltips. Silence weapons generate less noise and are less likely to alert nearby enemies. Vault and mantle indicators now display on the HUD when a surface can be vaulted or mantled over. The mission briefing table has now better delineates, man, I struggled on that word, between main mission and optional missions. Functional improvements to compass markers and objectives search the area to behave more constantly. Historical markers now display on the map in their locked state once players complete the introductory mission in Redfall Commons and Burial Point. They've improved the readability for ammo purchasing. They've added an off-screen indicator when Brian is down. They fixed an issue where objective searches in the area were blocking fast travel actions while using the map. The text-to-speech hotkey is now displayed at all times when active. Player reporting now shows a loading indicator when submitting, and they clarified the achievement description for the Rum Runner. They've made a lot of accessibility changes, improved the screen narration. I'm going to kind of skip over this section because overall, this is just them improving the different screens and the menus and how that works. So that's great. They've exiting the multiplayer lobby now reads closed instead of quit or leave lobby when the friends list is open. Lobby labeling now visually and audibly differentiates between single player and multiplayer, and they've improved the photosensitivity work in the following areas: firing the cracker unraveled, the flashing environment light boom, the vampire death and disintegration, Remy's cluster bomb, and summoning Layla's lift. Now for gameplay changes, numerous improvements to the default aim assist and dead zone tuning, and more options for players to customize these settings for both controller and keyboard and mouse. Now Arcane recommends for fast-paced multiplayer FPS fans, check out medium, high, or linear input response presets, as they tend to feel faster and more responsive. I had to get a sip of water. My throat was killing me. For slower single-player first-person shooter fans, check out default low or medium input response presets for slow response curves. Tends to feel like you've got a little bit more precision over your aim. For decrease your controller sensitivity from input response presets, default value will directly increase and decrease your overall right-left tuning speeds. For players who tune up their controller sensitivity, consider trying the default strong, very strong aim assist strength and ADS snap strength if you would like that assistance. For players who tune down their controller sensitivity, try very weak default aim assist strengths. The ADS snap preset will prevent you from feeling like you're fighting to control your aim. Tinkering with the input response preset is a good first step to help you in your controller settings that work best for you. And obviously, being a PvE game in this case, I think that in and of itself is great, and hopefully more people are going to be able to, and I'd love to see that obviously in more, just to let people who especially have control or hand dexterity issues and want to use the controller to make that a little bit easier. Now during the settling in mission, Anna Krimen will now fill the player's pistol, shotgun, and assault rifle ammunition. They added a new vampire nest spawn to the Old Town and Sedgwick neighborhoods, adding a tutorial blade and archive entry in psych residue. Remy's C4 no longer remains in the world after exploding, and various fixes for missions, objectives, persistence, and added mission dialogue for fall like lightning. For the combat changes, players can now sneak up and take down unaware cultists, bellwether enemies, and with staked weapons. Increased open world enemy population and mission encounter balancing. They added a unique open world enemy encounters in RedFall Commons. They added the element of light to reflect clothing to vampire and human NPCs to aid visibility during the night. They increased ammo pickups in areas surrounding the fire station to help new players maintain early game resources. Enemies now reposition to avoid friendly fire. Bribben is now guaranteed to shock nearby enemies while using Siren with the robot rock skill activated. Remy will now be alerted when and where Bribben is downed. They fixed several scenarios where enemies could become stuck in an idle state and stop engaging with the player. The sights and silencer barrels have been updated to improve reticle visibility, and sights using green emissives now have been tuned so that they aren't as bright as at night. Scale and positioning in magazines have been improved to prevent clipping and other animation issues. They've improved the Rook combat behavior and the Black Sun boss arena. Now, a couple other things: environmental changes, and we'll talk about multiplayer, and then we'll talk about what's missing. References to the Burial Point District have been added in the main map and other locations in the RedFall Commons District. They've improved the lighting presentation of the Black Sun boss arena, and they've improved invisible fidelity for psychic space butterflies, frog pockets, and Black Sun's glowing sigil, and various water effects. Now, multiplayer, added visual distinct player indicators and markers in the multiplayer sessions, and unique co-op ping color for each player in the squad, improved player ping visibility, and the lights out achievement will now be awarded if multiplayer only if the Lost in Fog mission is active. So, what's missing here? I think one of the things that is going to constantly hurt Redfall, again, besides the negative reception that it's had online to this point, that can be overcome though, but that's unfortunately takes a lot of work. You got to put in a lot more work, a lot more marketing, but Game Pass as a vehicle for that, it will end up being a strength to these kind of games in the long run, assuming that they do decide to keep supporting them. I think the multiplayer non-progress, I think the fact that it doesn't, in my mind, support a drop-in, drop-out multiplayer is going to make it much more difficult. You know, ultimately, let's say you're sitting down, you want to slay some vampires at the end of the day, your friends get on, you want to start over, you want to like, okay, let's like back out. It's just easier if they're like, hey man, what's going on? Can I jump in? Can I have some fun? You know, and then that will, I think, end up being kind of a real key thing. We've seen this time and time again, and I'm just a big fan of drop-in, drop-out multiplayer, but that is what it is. So let me know if you guys are going to be checking out the latest update. I'll give it some love, and I'll see if it is warranting an updated video with my impressions and overall thoughts at that point. So let me know if you want to see that. Guys, if you enjoy the content here, be sure to hit that like button on your way out. That way, it helps support the channel, and it is a great and free way to do so. I appreciate you guys. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I will see you in the next one. But until then, take care.